U.S. Farm Bill is a multi-billion-dollar piece of legislation that controls the federal government's spending on farm subsidies, food for the domestic poor, agriculture conservation programs, and overseas food aid, among other things. The latest Farm Bill expired on September 30th, 2012, and it is renewed and rewritten in 5-year intervals. Congress has spent over several months hammering out a new bill, which would control farm spending until 2017, but progress on the legislation was stalled in July.
Well, the Farm Bill helps us by giving us most of the time, not all the time, but a good part of the time over the last 60 years, there has been a minimum price that we will be guaranteed to get for our milk. And if the market price goes below that level, then we're guaranteed a minimum price, which without that, we would, our price could go down to the point where we couldn't afford to feed our cows. So, and then also this low-income housing program, that's been certainly a benefit to us. And the other part of the Farm Bill that affects us greatly is they subsidize all these grain prices throughout the country, which mostly goes to farmers in the Midwest. But that affects our grain prices that we feed our cows tremendously, or can.
Okay.
And one other area is the ethanol program. The corn that goes into ethanol, I think part of that's come through the Farm Bill. And that has artificially held the price of corn up higher than it would be otherwise. And so because they're forcing corn into making fuel, it takes a certain amount of the corn away from us. And so it doesn't take it away from, well, it takes it away from us, so it raises the price. So, and we're paying a lot more for our corn then, because a lot of the corn's going to ethanol instead of otherwise.
There are two draft versions of the bill, one created by lawmakers in the House of Representatives and another drafted and passed by the members of the Senate. The bills are broadly similar but differ in the range and depth of their budget cuts, as well as their policies on food aid reform. Legislators will need to reconcile the two versions before a new farm bill can be law.
How would the Farm Bill affect you if it was not passed in 2014?
Well, there will be a Farm Bill, and the main reason there will be a Farm Bill, they're trying to do away with a lot of these subsidies to farmers. A lot of the legislatures are cut them way back. And, probably, to be honest about it, some of these subsidies have been put in place many, many years ago, and it needs to be revised and revisited. There's no question about it. But the other big effect of the Farm Bill is the food stamp program. That's a third of the Farm Bill, and that's, for that reason alone, there will be a Farm Bill. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take them to create the new 5-year Farm Bill. But the Farm Bill usually runs for 5 years.
So if it wasn't passed, prices would go up, and
it would take a long time because it'd roll back to this old program, and to get it back to the old program, they have to get it started. The startup is what's going to take a while.
If a new farm bill has not been enacted by the time the current version expires, that's what's known as permanent law. Out-of-date farm rules from the 1930s will take effect. Nobody wants this to happen, so in the most likely scenarios that Congress will pass a short-term extension of the current legislation and take up the farm bill again in early 2013. But no, everybody is happy about this. U.S. farmers are in the middle of their worst drought they've faced in half a century. The pressure is growing from Democrats, farm lobbyists, and deficit hawks for Congress to enact the new law.
I mean, if we didn't have a Farm Bill, there's too many things that are tied to the Farm Bill. We will have a Farm Bill again, simply because of the food stamp program alone. There's no way they're going to let that go by the wayside. And farmers need, we get guaranteed loans, we get guaranteed money for disasters. Right now, we could be in the middle of a drought, to be honest about it. And if this drought were to continue for another year, you know, we would be getting drought relief money, and farmers need to be guaranteed. Most farmers are at the mercy of the weather, and we have no control over the weather. If we have a drought, or we have hurricanes, or we have floods, farmers are somewhat protected from those areas to get some minimum amount of money. Otherwise farmers would go under. So there's got to be some kind of protection for farmers growing crops, mainly because of weather conditions and having absolutely no control over them. And we've got to have food for this country to feed the people. You know, that's why the government is guaranteeing us minimum wages, minimum prices for our milk and our corn and everything. Is one way or another, we've got to have food to feed this, you know, the 350 million people that we've got in the United States.
Our prediction that will happen with the Farm Bill in the next few years is that the Farm Bill will still be here, but some changes will occur. Majority of the money will go to food stamps, which has no effect on farmers. Subsidies will be cut back because most of these programs were put in during the 40s and 50s, and the need for a lot of these subsidies are not here today, and a lot of the subsidies are for big corporate farms that need the grants from the government. The Farm Bill will still need to have subsidy programs and protect farmers from droughts and help support them when prices get really low. So we think that will still be incorporated in the Farm Bill, even though the Democrats want more money for the food stamp program and not a lot of subsidies, and the Republicans want more subsidies for corporate farmers and want to cut the food stamp program.